best cast.
Network. Now fix to start kicking ass, just like it said at the beginning of the program.
Man of the hour, tower of power, too sweet to be sour.
Sending your ass on the jabroni jet to the other side of the territory, brother.
The Alabama Hammer.
Nightmares are the best part of my day. The goods from the wood.
Hot damn.
Welcome to the Goods from the Woods. My name is Rivers Langley.
Pat Riley.
This is that man of the hour, tower of power, too sweet to be sour.
And today is a very special day. We are talking worst gimmicks ever.
In wrestling, like not just life gimmicks, just worst gimmick.
And joining us for this fantastical odyssey down the rabbit hole of kayfabe to the grave is our guest,
Justin Lentz.
And
Mike Lawrence.
Good to have you with us, fellas. I don't even know where to start. Like, I feel like the world of wrestling is so wrought with just awful, fantastically bad
I think
gimmicks.
everything you need to know about bad gimmicks is in the first 15 minutes of Beyond the Mat, when Vince meets Straws for the first time. And the infamous, he's got a puke. Like, I think that's how Vince thinks and how he sees things. He's like, what talents do you have? I could vomit on command. Yeah. Now, I was watching this with my girlfriend, now fiance. I don't know how that works when I showed her Beyond the Mat.
That's a good girl.
But yeah.
You hang on to that one.
We held each other during the Jake the Snake Roberts "fuck you, daddy" scene. But what was amazing, we're watching that and we're seeing Draw's puke, and Adina is her name. She looks at me and she goes, "So what happened to that guy?" I'm like, "Oh, he's paralyzed."
And not just paralyzed.
And that's one of the more uplifting stories in this film. He gets by fine. He still talks to his family.
The one I wanted to start with, the month is November. The year is 1999. Dustin Rhodes has left the WWF, forsaken Goldust, and moved over to WCW. They're promoting him for about a month.
I did mention dad issues.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry I wasn't there for you, son.
What's funny is, like, this happened like right when he reconnected with Dusty Rhodes. Like, they weren't talking. As far as I understand, Goldust was very much like an outright rebellion against his father.
Yeah, definitely.
And they weren't talking very
he
much.
rebelled against his father by covering up his stomach and the splotches contained within. No.
I didn't know the splotches was genetic.
Yeah. Oh, it's monogenetic.
And he gets WCW. They push him for about a month as this character, Seven, who is basically, he's wearing the Undertaker's ministry ring gear and painted completely white.
Remember he had the promos with the little boy in the bed?
Yeah, where it
and
was
he's looking in the window?
Yeah, like lightning would flash.
Hey, my son.
And all that shit like that. Like he's Dr. Claw and all this shit. And actually, it was because of that, if you remember, the TBS did not like that because it made him look like a kidnapper.
Yeah, he looks like
So they pulled the plug on the gimmick, and the one time he ever comes out there, he flies out and everything in his
the best
gear.
is Tony Schiavone going, "He is literally flying to the ring." Like,
He flew down to the ring, and then he takes all the shit off and buries the gimmick.
It's the best.
Wait a minute. Tony Schiavone with hyperbole? I would never have imagined that.
Can Tony Schiavone, as an authority on anything, be a worse gimmick?
And he comes to the ring. They spend so much money and time to make this man literally float to the ring. And then when he gets there, he takes off the hat. He's like, "So I guess I'm 7 or whatever."
Want everybody in here to take a good long look at this crap I'm in. I left the World Wrestling Federations for gimmicks like this. I wanted to come back to WCW because this is home for me, and I wanted to be just me, because that's what I can do, just be me. But the powers that be, they've dressed me up like Uncle Fester to play trick or treat all year long.
He didn't resurface. He basically immediately went back to WWF after that.
Yeah.
That was
To be
his
fair, though,
only.
the flying was impressive.
Oh yeah, it was very
Schiavone was
impressive.
not kidding.
No, he was not. He was not. It was a lot of money, I think.
It's the greatest moment in the history of our sport.
7. I think probably the most damaging gimmick of all time, the one that hurt the business more than anything, even though it helped it at first, is Mr. McMahon.
Yeah.
As a heel.
I gotta agree. When WWF just became a soap opera about the McMahon family, that's when
The initial idea and the initial feud with Steve Austin Gold, they made more money than they ever have, but it made it so that there could never not be authority figures in wrestling, and they're mostly all terrible.
That ruined the business. They'd had it in Memphis actually before that, but that ruined the business.
Remember, like Jack Tunney, like when he would come out, it would be important, and I almost think they purposely picked the least charismatic person.
Yeah, Jack Tunney was the old Toronto promoter.
Yeah, no, I know. But I think like they probably made fun of him for being boring in the office all the time.
They'd bring him out once a year and they'd have those big teeth and it'd be banning Jake the
I
Snake
feel, but like
for
it
life.
was like a gag. I feel like that was a rib or something. Like, let's put this uncharismatic block of Canadian Maplewood in front of a camera.
Well, my favorite one was in the old AWA. They had Stanley Blackwell, who never showed up. He was like the Robin Masters of AWA wrestling. And they're like, Stanley Blackwell says that this match has to restart. It's just like some sort of force that exists above all of us.
So they basically turned him into the laptop general manager from a couple of years ago.
More
if you
or
remember
less,
that.
yeah.
Well, all the territories used to have like a kayfabe promoter like that was always just an authority figure that was behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then when it was based around them, and it's still to this day with I Love You Pop Triple H.
Oh, God.
So awful. But it's like the authority now where it's like they're on screen 45 minutes. They're not at the house shows. They're not fighting that much. It's like, I don't care.
Yeah, yeah.
I just want to see people fake beat each other up.
Yeah.
I think the worst, like, McMahon as the heel for me was it had to be like right after the Steve Austin thing when they were like, well, Stone Cold's not it anymore. Let's just switch everything that we've written over to Triple H and do the exact same thing again for 2 years.
Well, even when it was like the Triple H and, Stephanie and the drive-through wedding chapel with Test and all that awful stuff where it's just like they thought they were the stars, but no one bought a ticket to see them,
Yeah.
I mean, no one's ever bought a ticket to see Triple H either.
But the problem is they switched from like trying to sell tickets to trying to just get ratings on TV.
Oh, yeah.
So it's all just about the TV show and the pay-per-views now, and not about like the live shows anymore.
Well, it almost seems like the TV shows are almost more about promoting the next pay-per-view more than the TV show.
Everything is just constant hype.
Yeah.
It's just everything's constant
Well,
hype.
it's
for
always
the next
about
thing.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
You had to have something interesting today, And I think like when you look back, like even like when there was 4 pay-per-views and the big guys would only fight, once or twice, it meant something. Like every time they were in a squash match, it just it built up your anticipation to see them.
Yeah.
They didn't actually have Hogan on TV much then.
No.
You had to watch Saturday Night's Main Event to see Hogan.
Same thing
Yeah.
with Randy Savage was the same way.
Yeah,
It's like if like
you
two
got big enough, you
whores,
weren't on TV.
if 2 whores like had to top each other. Like, so it was like, I'll take 4 dicks in my ass, and then someone's like, no, I'll take 7, and then you just get 2 really exhausted, tired whores
With
And they
coke
don't-
problems.
Yeah, and they don't want to fuck anymore, and that's basically the Monday Night Wars and what led to today. It's like that woman who was in her 20s who was sticking cantaloupes up there is now in her 30s, and she's like, can you just talk to me for a while? Can you just show me the Muppets? Like, can you? She's like, I can't go as fast as I used to. The old gray mare, she ain't what she used to be.
Pat, what's your vote for worst gimmick?
Okay, this one didn't last long, but I think it's on paper just the most inane thing in the history of wrestling, and that's the Yeti from WCW 1995. So the whole story behind
Can
the,
WCW 1995 be the worst gimmick?
I think so, because
It was WWF 1995.
1995 in general.
you know.
This from a guy who looks like he used to be Mantor.
Hey, everybody had to start a business somewhere.
He's like, I call my dick Man Mountain Cock.
But in WCW 1995, it was when they had just gotten Hogan, and it wasn't getting off the ground like it should. So, you know, Hogan was wrestling Ric Flair, he's wrestling Vader, and it wasn't having the explosive qualities that they thought it would. So he decided to have Hulk Hogan feud against this thing called the Dungeon of Doom, which was just this collection
Called
of...
Fatties Incorporated.
Exactly. Just repackaged.
Sad, bad fatties.
Just like my favorite one of that group was Zodiac, which was Brutus the Barber Beefcake, Ed Leslie in like zebra print makeup with like an Ed Grimley spike on his hair, and he just said yes and no over and over again, you know. But so there was this big feud between Hogan and the Dungeon of Doom, which led to many great monster truck matches and things like that. But the thing was that they found a weapon to destroy Hulk Hogan, and they had this block of fake ice.
Yeah, it's called Dr. Zahorian.
Yeah. And our bumpers are just going to be you doing the Billy Graham testimony. But so they had this block of ice multiple weeks on WCW Nitro, and they said that the Yeti was in there. And when you think Yeti, you think the Abominable Snowman, which
Bigfoot,
you know
Sasquatch.
doesn't really have a place in wrestling, but I can run with it a little bit. But at Halloween Havoc 1995, the block of ice explodes. And out comes.
By the way, the block of ice was just made from pieces of broken egg from 1990
From the
Survivor
Gobbledygook.
Series. They just painted it blue.
Yeah. And out comes a guy in a mummy costume, a 7-foot guy in a mummy costume. And Tony Schiavone, the announcer for WCW, just goes, "It's the Yeti!" And it's like, oh, what? This is confounding. This is absolutely
It's a
confounding.
mummy.
So the Yeti
That'll put
mummy,
butts in seats.
yeah, exactly, goes into the ring, and Hogan is getting a bear hug from the Giant, who's now the Big Show. And what does the Yeti do? How does a Yeti attack? He goes behind Hulk Hogan and takes the business end of the deal and just hugs the two of them. It's like a group hug, and he doesn't just hug him and do a bear hug. He like does this thing like he rubs. He like massages. Like he just is like giving a nice little rub. And he was humping the Hulkster. They were double teaming the Hulkster in a very carnal way. And
Just Bob giving a reach around the whole time.
yeah.
I heard the Yeti's dick tastes better than anything at Pasta Mania.
So you know, this ends. This is so bad that they do not have the Yeti come back, because the rest of this whole thing is just the Yeti walking around doing the
But
Frankenstein.
so bad that you remember it all in detail.
But the thing that was absolutely great is that they decided to bring the Yeti back for one more match, and it was the World War III 3-ring 60-man battle royal. And they have the guys walking down, like they just do an announcement where the people walk down and they announce all their names. And out comes this guy in like a samurai ninja costume, and the guy just goes, "The Yeti!" It's like, what the fuck? This doesn't make any sense.
The Yeti is now a samurai.
The Yeti is now a samurai, and not only that, they refer to him as the Yeti. Like that kind of picks up. And he gets eliminated first. A 7-foot man getting eliminated first in a battle royal is the biggest fucking jobber move ever. Like, you're the biggest waste of space ever if you're 7 foot tall and you're the first guy out of the battle royal.
Usually the first person eliminated in a battle royale is Kevin Nash's kneecaps. I think that like so many of the gimmicks that are great should have been terrible, and that says everything about pro wrestling. Like,
Yeah.
The Undertaker should not have worked.
Yeah.
It should not have sustained this long. And his manager is Paul Bearer.
Well, Paul Bearer is probably a lot of what made it work in the early days.
Absolutely.
Because his first manager was Brother Love, and Goodnight and I were talking like, would the Undertaker have gotten over the way he did if Brother Love was his manager?
No, not at all.
Tightrope walk helped too.
Yeah.
Well, Paul
He
Bearer
was
has
a good worker, yeah, of course.
Paul Bearer has such a carnival barker feel to him that it's like you can't help but just wait for him to get worse and worse. Because it's like if you start paying attention to Paul Bearer and like you actually listen to what he's saying, he picks up on that, and it just keeps getting to the point where it's almost inconceivable by the end of it that he's actually saying words anymore.
But here's why it
really
worked.
shrill.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But here's why it worked and why. I mean, I always go back to why today is shitty. But like now, like the Undertaker had his place. He would fight just any evil fat guy. That was mostly all his feuds, was just fatties. And then Paul Bearer would do all the talking. He was with Paul Bearer for like at least 6 or 7 years, right? Like
till 97.
Yeah, and so, but like now, like a minute after, like a guy like Ryback is in, they're like, let's let him talk,
Yeah.
and let's let him be a star,
Yeah, no.
and let's let him be a superstar, and let's try to build him to be in movies. And like, if they had done that, like part of what worked about the Undertaker was that,
He didn't talk.
yeah, and then he would say "rest in peace," and that Paul Bearer was just saying whatever to build up
Yeah.
to that.
Paul
for
Bearer
5
used to
minutes.
control him. Remember that with the urn?
Yeah.
It was like
Yeah.
his zombie.
He was the Nate Dogg to his Warren G.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. One of my favorite things is that Undertaker versus the guy who I think is dead.
Probably.
The dead
Which
dead.
one?
Yeah, I know.
wrestler.
Yeah. Who played the fake Undertaker? But my favorite thing in that, because DiBiase has his urn, but then Paul Bearer comes out with his, and he opens the urn and just goes, "Whoa!" Like he just discovered vaginas for the first time. Whoa! There's a thing in there, and it's deep.
I don't know. Paul Bearer gives me hope because I have no hope of actually wrestling, but I have always wanted to be
Oh yeah,
the manager. Like that seems
the
like
managers were great, and even
Yeah.
like Paul Bearer, Tony Schiavone. Like I know he was an announcer, but like every authority figure in wrestling from the '80s looked like the guy who owned the pizzeria that sponsored your little league team.
exactly.
Like Bobby Heenan, and it's like they really need managers again. Somebody. It's just I
Like-
don't want to see Brodus Clay up there by himself.
Right. Yeah. Well, and there's people. I'm available to be a manager.
Yeah.
It's a goal of mine to just have Madison Square Garden booing me. That's like a long standing dream.
They think that everyone needs to be good at They think everyone needs to be good at everything, and the
Yeah.
reality is everyone just needs to be good at something.
Right.
Ultimate Warrior was good at one thing.
Yeah.
He did it really well. He couldn't do anything else. They burned it out as far as they could. He
Yep.
got exactly what he should have out of the business, and that's that, and that's how they should do it.
I've always thought that because there's no way I have no athletic prowess, but a manager is like it's the best job to have because you get to talk and then you get to get thrown through a table like once every month or
You
so.
learn to take bumps.
Yeah, you just learn how to take bumps. That would be
They're
so much
often
fun.
former wrestlers because of that.
I would love to have the Big Show throw me through a table.
Well, there's so much distraction for a manager to provide too, like on the corner of the ring. Like one of my biggest problems with like that 96-97 transition that the WWF is starting to do was instead of managers, they started to go with like they had groups that would go with them, but
Yeah.
none of them talked. Like the Godfather's a perfect example. Like, he always had hoes.
Yeah.
And the hoes would just stand there and you're like, where they're at, the minute that, the heel gets into that corner, or actually it's the face at that point.
Yeah.
The minute he gets into the corner, the hoes are just going to attack him. Like everybody knows there's 4 awful skanks sitting in one side. And he's like, oh, he's on that side. He's going to throw him into that corner. Here it comes. And tit hold. Like,
But then that's what McMahon, the Mr. McMahon character, ruined, was that then the authority figure became the star and not the supplement to the wrestlers.
Except for we did get that great McMahon onesie that he wears to this day if he wrestles. That black onesie with
He
all the
wrestled
tape.
Zach Gowen in. That was That's got to be up there in worst gimmicks. The guy with one leg.
Oh,
If they hired the wrong guy with
I was
one
about
leg.
to say they hired Johnny Ace hired the wrong guy with one leg.
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Oh God.
Good night. Worst gimmick?
Oh shit! I was actually going to go with Jeff Hardy.
I'll sign off on that.
What the fuck is he supposed to be? Some goth guy or some shit?
He's finger food for 13-year-old girls.
Pretty much is. It's like I come from a My Chemical Romance concert or some shit like that, but they call him Charismatic Enigma. I do not know what's charismatic about
He
any
has
of
a
that
place.
shit.
Yeah.
You know, it's in 1 minute TNA matches, but he has a place.
He has a place that's on the other channel that I ain't watching.
I remember.
He sells tickets for the girls wouldn't go for any other reason. I mean, I know you like Dusty Rhodes and and other guys like that, and that's good for certain people. Girls are.
Can't they get off on Tommy Rich like they used to? Rock and Roll Express.
Hey, Ricky
Who knows how
Morton,
many bastard children they had in
mullet
Alabama?
13-year-old girls aren't going to get off on Ricky Morton. They're going to wonder why he hasn't paid their child support.
Well, they did once. They get off on him once, and then it's child support time.
I remember Jeff Hardy and not watching any of the Hardy matches, and then he had a brother, right? It was Tom Hardy.
There
Matt.
was a Hardy.
Matt Hardy.
Matt Hardy. Tom Hardy's Bane.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
I am a charismatic enigma.
But
What a twist of fate that has befallen you, Edge. Lita, you have forgotten where you came from.
Swanton Bomb.
Don't look in the glove compartment.
why weren't they fighting as the Hardy Boys and just solving mysteries?
Yeah,
Like
right.
wrestling mysteries, just a perfect gimmick. Why didn't they do that?
Because
instead?
Vince hasn't read the Hardy Boys yet.
Nobody clued
It's
him
too
in.
getting to it.
It's too new.
Yeah, you're right. They did team as the Hardy Boys.
Look at
Yeah.
Nancy Drew as a manager.
15 years, never solved one
Not a
mystery.
single fucking mystery.
Yeah, that's
not
stupid.
one. My the worst gimmick I can imagine was right after it was when I finally I turned off Raw before the 2-hour mark, where I was just waiting, and I turned Raw off because they had just introduced a new wrestler named Val Venus.
Yeah.
Hello, ladies.
I hated Val Venus, the gimmick of Val Venus, because Val Venus was a technical wrestler. He's really good, but the problem is they went at the porn angle so hard that it was
So hard.
it was so hard. But it was just you can't have who looks like a gay porn star playing a porn star and wrestling guys with a finishing move that was basically mimicking fucking them into submission.
Yeah.
Where they would cover his groin up with a towel and shake it, and then he would go after a dude.
It's kind of like the Mummy in that respect.
The thing is, Justin, is that Val Venus himself is not as bad. But the one thing that I always remember about Val Venus is they had that storyline where he got his penis cut off.
Yeah.
Me chopping your pee-pee.
Yeah, where
That would have been a case for the Hardy Boys.
yeah, it's,
Who cut off Val Venus? It would have been the Who Shot JR of the late 90s.
Why isn't it Hardy Boys?
where the ending shot of a Monday Night Raw is a guy, a Japanese guy, chopping off Val Venus's penis with a samurai sword and leaving with that cliffhanger, and then the next week explaining it away that it didn't work because he got shrinkage.
See, I like Val
And then
Venus.
people think the Attitude Era was good.
But Val Venus, he committed. He gave a shit. I mean, the biggest problem with gimmicks like that is that once the bell rings, because especially the WWE, their style is so, broken down and so obvious that everyone wrestles the same, so they don't wrestle in the gimmick. George the Animal Steel would wrestle like a crazy person.
Yeah, exactly.
All like a crazy
Or
person.
the Bushwhackers would do the same thing. They would wrestle as
Yeah,
the
with
Bushwhackers.
noogies and
Yeah.
stuff. I said noogie. And
Sergeant Slaughter had it as a finisher for a while. There.
but I watched SummerSlam this year,
Uh-huh.
and there's that Bray Wyatt match.
Yeah.
And Bray Wyatt, I think, is a fantastic gimmick. The
I love
Wyatt
that.
family.
I
The
love it.
videos were awesome. But the second the bell rang, he wrestled like anybody else.
Right,
And
right.
the thing is, it's like, no, these guys are like killers.
Yeah.
They are insane hillbillies. They
Yeah.
should not be Irish whipping people.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
exactly.
Like, the Irish whip is the most exposing move in wrestling anyway. Like, whack job should not be doing it. It makes no sense. Oh, if you push me, I'll run now.
Yeah,
Of my own choice.
It's like a video game.
It just doesn't make any sense. And the thing that was the weirdest about it was that Bray Wyatt was wearing his own shirt. He was wearing his own merch. Which it makes sense when Randy Orton does it because that's a tool bag move and Randy Orton's a tool bag. But
Right.
like Bray Wyatt is a whack job. He shouldn't be wearing anything with logos on it
Yeah.
or anything.
I mean, if
They
it,
all want to sell shirts now. They can't get the same kind of heat.
Well-
Nobody, except like Colton, nobody really wants to get hated anymore because they all want to sell T-shirts.
the heels do too. And it's,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, in Bray Wyatt, his shirt should be like, handmade or something, I feel like.
They
If
should
they're-
be made
they're
out
gonna-
of like faces.
Right, yeah. Oh, that would be gnarly, man.
But something like burlap or something.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
shouldn't be cotton tees,
Yeah. You shouldn't be able to buy Wyatt family gear in small,
Potato sack.
medium, and large, and extra large.
What does the Bray Wyatt shirt look like? Is it like affliction-y?
It
like
has his
all
logo.
the
It has
shirts?
his saying "Follow the Buzzards" on it. It just doesn't make sense that that character would have a catchphrase that he wears on his shirt.
Yeah, I do love that he's wearing Hawaiian shirts and and white
That makes
pants.
sense.
Well, no, it makes perfect sense. That's like an element of hillbillydom that I feel like has gone, because it's always like overalls,
Yeah.
stuff like that. I'm like, no, like I'm from Alabama. People wear Hawaiian shirts. I wore them for many years.
It's wish fulfillment. You want to be in Hawaii.
Yeah, exactly. You want to be anywhere else?
And it's hot.
Yep.
Yeah.
And a straw hat.
But that like Razor Ramon should have been dumb, but it worked.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
He wanted to do that was the thing. Like he had to show Vince Scarface.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So wait, Vince had never seen Scarface.
No.
And Scott Hall was like, "Watch this. This is what I'm doing."
Apparently, he did the lines from it, and both Vince McMahon and Pat Patterson were absolutely confused. He thought that he had made those up. Like, neither of them had seen Scarface before.
How? The amount of cocaine that Vince McMahon did in the 80s?
That's why.
Yeah, he just
He was
lived
too busy calling Tito Santana his little friend.
Dropping people out of a
Well,
helicopter and
speaking of it,
shit.
there was El Matador.
Oh,
Bad
that's
gimmicks.
right.
Remember that shit?
Yeah.
He fought the bull, and every time you actually saw the bull fight, it was like from a helicopter.
But what
Yeah.
was weird about that was that he had been Tito Santana
For
in that
years.
company for years, and now he's just the Matador.
Well, I think it was that era when they were trying to rebrand everybody as a gimmick guy. So it was their way to make Tito modern for like 1991 or whatever the hell it was.
And not only that, they half-assed it because they didn't just call him El Matador. They acknowledged that it was Tito Santana. And they thought of some like BS response like, oh, he's going to his Mexican roots. It's like bullfighting. Yeah, bullfighting is Spanish.
Yeah.
So the one that I like that is like the most understood gimmick, and it's like right at that time when they were like, everybody's got a gimmick. If you don't have a gimmick, we're gonna give you one.
Yeah.
The blue meanie, the Owen Hart thing,
Yeah.
where it was like,
The blue blazer, you mean?
oh, the blue blazer, yeah.
Yeah.
But there was this time.
The Blue Meanie was the fat guy that used to follow around
he was the
Jericho,
guy that
right?
would like,
This
paint his
is
face blue.
I wouldn't want
I
to
didn't
see.
just imagine him falling.
Yeah,
90
I was
feet.
about
Yeah,
to
exactly.
say the blue meanie falling 70 feet from Kiel Arena.
You couldn't
is
even
a
have
little
an
bit-
option of continuing the matches.
This
It's
is
like
Jim
no.
Ross saying this is not a part of the storyline. The blue meanie is dead.
But like that was pre
Mark Henry reading blue meanie poster. I miss you, blue meanie.
It's the burn that you feel when you cry.
But like that had such a rippling impact where they were just like they just kept going with the match. This dude died in the middle of the ring and they kept going. And like I remember reading about it.
Did they know he was dead yet?
Oh,
Yeah.
they knew. They knew before Raw was even over.
He no-sold that turnbuckle.
Yeah. But it was just like it was before like
Or
there
did
was
the
like
turnbuckle no-sell him. I'm
the
sorry.
turnbuckle no sell.
Sell
thing. But there was the whole thing where it was like everybody knew that was Owen Hart. There was no question that it was Owen Hart.
Oh, they
Like,
had to cut promos after that. You imagine like
Yeah.
finding out your friend died and you're like,
where's Owen? Wait,
I mean,
what?
That's the kind of behavior I expect out of an open mic, but not a professional wrestling
Yes.
company. If someone died in an open mic, someone would be like, my name is still in the bucket.
Could you? Am I 23? What number you want?
So we're not doing 22 now, right? Okay.
Can I do 6 minutes instead of 3?
I'll do 3 of them for Tony. Shivani was an open micer. And that's the first name I could think of.
Oh man.
But the Blue Blazer, yeah.
Yeah, the Blue Blazer, not the Blue Meanie. The Blue Meanie,
He'd
probably
had
still
the gimmick
alive.
before. He'd had it in the late 80s when they brought him in for some reason and put the mask on him.
I thought that was a new thing. When
No,
they did that in the
no, it
90s,
was-
I thought it was a
in
new
the late
thing.
80s, he was there with that
He
gimmick.
wrestled Mr. Perfect at WrestleMania 5.
Yeah.
And the weird thing was that the gimmick, bringing him back and having him go through the identity crisis of being the Blue Blazer was bad. But then to like switch it around where they were just like, oh, Owen Hart really isn't the Blue Blazer. They had Coco Beware dress as the Blue Blazer.
Totally different.
Yeah, totally different.
Yeah.
You got a tan.
Hall of Famer Coco Beware. That's a bad gimmick. Hall of Famer Coco Beware. I mean, all the racist gimmicks, obviously. Yeah,
The Sheik.
the Mexicals.
The Mexico.
No, I think the Sheik is the most successful out of them.
Yeah.
Like, by far. Like, everybody else was like, that's kind
Well,
of
there's
racist.
Detroit Sheik, and then
Yeah.
Iron Sheik.
Yeah. Well, with the Iron Sheik, especially with his Twitter now, if you're reading the Iron Sheik's Twitter, you're doing it in a racist voice. Just by the way he writes it, you can't not like read it like that.
I
Just
did.
because the way
He's
he
had a
composes
whole, like,
tweets.
career revival just from being like an internet mad.
It's weird. I did 3 roasts with him last year.
Really? What was
yeah,
that
I
like?
roasted him. It was interesting to say the least. The first one, MVP and Jay Lethal were on, and that was really fun. And those guys were really awesome and cool dudes. And then the second 2, Ed Leslie,
Oh wow.
of Zodiac, Brutus, and Boston Prisoner, was there, and that was interesting. I mean, the Sheik, he's there, but he's not.
Right.
It's really sad.
He just says, "Go fuck yourself" whenever they hit a bump.
Yeah, well, basically what happens is, like, everything with him is word association. So, he'd be roasting him and stuff, and fans would just yell out, Hulk Hogan, Jabroni, and then he just, Jabroni Hogan,
Yeah.
He's not all there.
Ed Leslie had a good joke though. He said, "I wouldn't say that the Sheik is slow, but he recently lost a foot race to Kamala." So somebody must have read it for him.
Where did you hear that from?
Ed Leslie. Was it your joke?
It was somebody else.
I thought so. I didn't think he wrote it himself, but he did it when it was in Los Angeles here back in May.
Oh, okay, yeah.
What is the worst Ed Leslie gimmick?
That guy was fun to roast, man, because, like, he just took it, and you could be so mean to him. One of the things I said was, "Did you feel every 23 inches of that python in your ass?" He's like, I bet when Hogan was done with you, your butthole looked like China's pussy.
Well, they called him the Booty Man for a reason, right?
That's right.
Another was I remember when you lost that match to Ricky the Dragon Speedboat. You went from a baby face to a maybe face. Yeah, Sheik. One of mine was you were going to be the Ayatollah and the wrestler, but you snorted all your lines before you could memorize them. The last time you fucked someone in the ass and made them humble, Chris Kanyon shot himself.
Oh, man.
Canyon, actually, that ties into another
Mortis Glacier. I mean,
Glacier,
was,
Mortis, and Wrath.
And I
Mortal
think
Kombat.
the problem with it was
That's
that
more just you hating that decade, though. That's just 90s.
I loved it.
Well, no, I think the thing was that the full power of how bad the Glacier gimmick was cut off by the NWO, because the NWO came in at that time and basically like took over the whole storyline at arc of WCW. But like the Glacier angle, they were going to have that be one of the major gimmicks. Like they were going to put a strap on him. They were going to have him fight for titles and things like that.
No, they invested
It for like a year ahead of time.
Wasn't his entrance like something insane, like $500,000?
Yeah,
just
well,
for
they
that
had
first
they
entrance?
had the outfit, the snow machines,
Yeah.
all that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
the
Fucking
snow
Kiss
design.
Demon. I mean, there you go. There's a clunker.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing was that originally they were going to have Rob Van Dam do the Glacier gimmick, and he refused. rightfully, because that would have destroyed his career.
Yeah.
And they ran this thing for so long, and they finally debuted on WCW Saturday Night, which is like,
Why?
you don't debut on that.
No. Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
that's just like a total B team debut.
I was gonna say, that's
he
where
takes his mask off, and he looks like your gym teacher. He looks like your gym teacher that got like a green belt in karate, and that's the whole gimmick. And then they go on further, and they introduce, you know, Mortis, which is kind of a ripoff of Reptile, Wrath, who was Atom Bomb, but with like a weird sort of like skull mask and
he
a
was
Viking
like
helmet.
Scorpion, vaguely.
I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
And it was like, it was a thing. Like they replayed Mortal Kombat on WCW Worldwide for at least 6 months.
But without the fatalities. The
Without
one
the
thing that was
fatalities.
good about Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
I mean, later on.
Well, you had to wait for the Mortis fatality.
Well, that's only because no one would give him a friendship. I think my favorite bad gimmick, though, the best one was Snitsky.
Yes.
Because, like, they literally, like, he was a jobber.
Yeah.
And because he caused a miscarriage, he became a regular wrestler. That's how they introduced him. It's not my fault.
Yeah.
And then there was the point where he had like a foot fetish.
Oh, and he had like
The Atlas or something?
he had so much adult acne and shit. There's nothing about him that looked like a star. He looked horrific.
Oh God, yeah. His teeth were.
He looked like an 8-year-old
chartreuse.
kid, like shot with like an aging ray. Like,
I remember, when that happened, like, because he was just. He was like a accident basically. Like he accidentally bumped somebody off. He bumped Lita off the ring or something, and then suddenly he was just a guy. Because he went from we call him Gene Snitsky.
yeah, Snitsky. Yeah,
And then,
Gene
like,
Snitsky.
slowly, like, they tried to turn that badass, and they were like, it's Snitsky. You're like, wasn't he just that guy who bumped
Either
Lita
way,
off
it
the
makes me
ring?
think of Snick.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Nickelodeon Saturday Night Programming. Are you afraid of the dark? Because Snitsky is in it, and he will give you a roundhouse. I am all that.
I think at one point there was Snitsky and Mike Knox were on the same thing, and they both were just like gigantic dudes with beards. Like they just looked exactly the same.
They both look like the guy who would safely escort you from the mosh pit.
Yeah.
You don't belong here. Come to the side.
Once you crowd surfed over the banister.
I think my favorite gimmick that went bad and like just went off the rails. Like it started really, really strong, and then they just had no ending for it. Was the Kane Undertaker sibling rivalry?
Oh,
like,
God, yes.
That shit became like a Russian novel.
it was ridiculous. Like it was like we read Les Mis.
Yeah,
Let's
but the
put that
fact
in the
that
Kane
guy
Undertaker story.
is still working 15 years later.
Yeah.
says something must have worked.
No, it worked
Yeah.
great, but it was like it was
had no
they just
ending.
they
Yeah.
just stopped talking about it for a little while, and they were like, "No, it's fine," because there was the whole thing of Paul Bearer was representing both of them at the same time,
Yeah.
and
I love black hair Paul Bearer. I hate.
brown hair Paul Bearer.
Oh God.
Yeah,
Oh, no mustache.
looks
Paul
like-
Barrow was nasty.
Oh, he looks like a. He
his
looks more
chin
like a
grew 3
pedophile.
times.
Yeah, and he looked like a fucking televangelist. By
Oh
that
yeah.
point.
And he would crane his neck like he was eating a fucking fish, like
Yeah.
every time. And it'd be like, now I know you don't have facial hair, and apparently no control of your throat muscles.
Although I will say, platinum blonde Percy Pringle, Paul Barrow was good.
Yeah.
like I just thought that
You haven't seen wrestling since 1987.
No, I haven't. Everybody knows that. No,
it's
I used to watch those days.
blonde Paul Bearer to me, like just thinking of like, because that image is just branded in my brain from growing up, and it was like that looked like DDP looked like that Paul Bearer was just like, fuck it, I got to get in shape, and like, because like DDP went through that really bad phase in WCW where when Fireworks just became like, this is everybody's opening now, we're just gonna maybe change the color and it'll just be like a loud explosion. They stole it from Raw because Raw just started that with Mankind and Kane. It was like red fireworks, and then that was the only guys that would get fireworks, and now everybody's got fireworks.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was self high five DDP, where it was that
does
was his
the yoga
opening
now.
video. Yeah, I had this weird fascination with DDP growing up, where it was like I loved.
Have you done his
DDP.
yoga?
I haven't, but I really want to.
You should, because it's not about this is what my abs are like. It's like, look at how good my life is.
Yeah, because he's like, he turned it over. He was like Tyson for a little bit, because apparently Tyson said something really bad lately. But like, it's like, nah, I'm not crazy. And it was like, it was right after Benoit had killed his family and hung himself. And then he was
Spoiler
alert.
alert.
Yeah. Just so everybody's on the same page. But it was like, then DDP was like,
We don't want to ruin WrestleMania 20 for you.
If you got it on VHS, just hold out. But
The Canadian and the Latino hug each other, and they live happily ever after.
Nothing bad ever happens. But DDP was like, whoa, like DDP was the opposite of my life has gotten so much worse since wrestling it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he has Jake the Snake now.
Yeah.
Jake the
Actually,
Snake.
Jake the Snake. I
And
saw
Scott
his,
Hall.
Scott Hall, yeah.
I saw his infomercial for the yoga.
Yeah,
It's the only
yeah.
infomercial I ever seen that had Jake the Snake on it.
Yeah.
We stole cable from our neighbors, and I watched that infomercial. And I
Yeah,
was
that
like,
infomercial's good shit.
I called it,
Would
and
you
my
want to
bank
see
account was
Jake the
insufficient.
Snake on more infomercials?
Yes.
I want to see
I want
him
to
sell a
see
ninja.
I want to see Jake the Snake on the Proactive commercial. That would be great.
Yeah.
When
Jake
you
the
are
Snake?
wallowing in the muck of avarice, remember to use the ShamWow to clean it up.
I want Jake the Snake to do the equivalent of the sad dog commercials for adoption snakes. Like, just like, these snakes need homes.
When you are in the arms of the angel, don't forget to remember the devil that sent you here.
I want to see him do one for the grill. Remember the Hulk Hogan grill? That thing? You make Quake burgers on it.
I was born into this world without love. My father raped my mother, but the one thing that I remember is the hamburgers that he cooked.
On this electric grill.
They were burned with the fires of hell. And they tasted like the Quake burgers that fat fuck John Tena gave me. And I swear I prayed that cancer on him, that son of a bitch. And even though God doesn't answer me anymore, he don't receive my phone calls. I used to be on a speed dial. He granted me that one wish.
I want to see the Paul Bearer guest host the Knife Show.
He's dead.
I took
He did?
Lucifer
He's
and
dead.
I stuck him
Oh,
in a
well.
bag.
You know, if I had a time machine, I want to watch the Paul Bearer.
Oh, the thing with like Don West and all that shit?
Yeah, where they would just sell you 90 knives
Yeah.
that you don't need.
Bagans all down with the knives. We got bagans here.
But wait, we have 90 more.
We'll throw in 5 free steak knives.
Oh, you can do it on FlexPay. These knives, $30 until hell freezes over.
And it's just got.
Knives are a cut above the rest. We tested them on Arn Anderson's back.
I can cut a pineapple in midair.
They always say there's so many knives at once, too. I mean, I like knives, but I don't need 20 of the same pocket knife at the same time.
Yeah, no.
127 pocket knives.
Unless you have
You
one for
rest in peace on the Sealy Posturepedic mattress. No woman, no cry.
Reggae Paul Bear is my favorite.
I shot the sheriff, but Scott Hall shot the deputy, and it's haunted him ever since.
Chant down Babylon.
29 bodies, 29 souls, and with each one, you'll get closer and closer to your championship.
Is the reason they don't do midget wrestling anymore just because it's offensive? Because that was the greatest thing.
There's El Torito.
El Torito is still around, but there was a section of Raw for like a.
I think
like
it's because they
midget-
die when they're 23 years
Yes.
old.
Midget
That's why they always wear
wrestling-
masks.
Midget wrestling is things like women's wrestling that just comes in waves.
Yeah.
And they have it for a while, and then it
And sometimes
disappears.
gets its own E-show.
Yeah. Do you remember?
Total
Oh,
midgets.
God.
No, they had Hulk Hogan's midget wrestling. They had it. Oh, it's the worst.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Like on paper, greatest show ever. And then you
God.
watch it
The
execute.
fat-
It's like no.
The fat one was called Meatball.
Oh, that's adorable.
Wow, man. I somehow just forgot about that until that was like last year,
Yeah.
right? That was not even that long ago. I remember seeing that. Oh, God.
That was 9 years after he couldn't do the leg drop.
Yeah.
Okay, why did Hulk Hogan dye his facial hair when he went to the WCW?
Oh, Billy Graham.
Billy
He was
Graham?
doing a superstar Billy Graham thing.
Okay, because I thought that was in his contract. No blonde hair,
No,
Hulk.
and I thought it looked like, when somebody goes to like a Halloween party and they're being like a hobo or something, so they just like paint on a beard like that.
It's because he had to cherish whatever hair he had left.
Yeah.
It's because he took fashion tips from Scott Nash at the time. He was like, listen, greasier is better.
Scott Steiner did the same thing.
Yeah.
He had inverted Billy Graham. Scott Steiner grew into the fact where he looked like Rick Steiner did in the early days.
He was the Benjamin Button of classic
Yeah.
wrestling. I still have that affinity for when you could just use shit that was left behind from the rigging team as a prop, like Hacksaw Jim Duggan. His one prop was a 2x4 that he would just walk
He
around
allegedly
with.
picked up backstage
Yeah.
because Nikolai Volkov was singing the Russian national anthem.
Yeah, and
He
it
was
just
the only
fucked it up.
person. He was the only person to go to a Lowe's with a purpose.
No, that one's too short. I need to see longer.
I can't go out there with a 1x3.
Are you kidding me? They'll laugh me right back in the tunnel.
Oh, look, the porch flags are on sale. Get one of them, too.
That was another one of my Chic roast jokes was the night that Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Iron Sheik were caught doing drugs together was the night Kayfabe died. Kayfabe was the hooker in the back seat. I did have a moment with Hacksaw. I did a Comic-Con this summer in Miami on July 4th. And Hacksaw, because we were, it was like an open, convention hall. It was huge. And on the other side was a wrestling ring, and he was going to wrestle Cobra Commander.
Oh, Jesus.
I'd go with Cobra Commander.
Yeah, I heard Scott Keith gave that match 1 star. But what
He's no
happened?
selling my finish. Next year, I'm going to wrestle Destro.
Mask versus mask match, yeah. But no, so he comes
Someone has
out,
the hood on inside.
and I'm on stage, and I get heckled by the ho.
Yeah.
He does it, and then I yell out. I'm like, because some of the people that are watching us turn to look at him. I'm like, no, keep watching us. We're real.
So you've done a lot of work, I guess, with the wrestling community.
Some of it, yeah. Wrestlers are cool usually. I did a show with Colt Cabana. That was awesome.
I want to meet him. I thoroughly enjoy his
I
show.
interviewed the Hurricane. He was a really cool dude. Dolph Ziggler follows me on Twitter.
Ziggler's a huge comedy fan.
Yeah, he's
Like,
a
he
really
shows
nice
up at
guy.
comedy shows. all
I've
the
heard
time.
that, yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
You mean the caddy, the guy that's the caddy for Chavo Guerrero?
You mean Kerwin White?
That was a damn good gimmick. That
No,
was good
it's
shit.
Nikki.
Kerwin White?
Nikki from
Yeah, I love that shit.
Nikki from the Spirit Squad or whatever.
Look, the idea of evil cheerleaders was not a bad gimmick
I
as
loved
much
it.
as the idea of 5 evil cheerleaders losing to one guy every time.
right. I love that. I actually really dug that angle.
That's it. It's all about execution. Terry
Yeah, just-
Taylor, Red Rooster.
Yeah,
There's
no,
a shitty gimmick.
I gotta say something. Terry Taylor, Red Rooster, that might be the worst gimmick.
in
Because
terms of ruining somebody.
in terms of, it was a career killer.
yeah.
He could never go anywhere again without the albatross of the rooster, if you will, hanging over him.
Although it didn't help that he followed it up with the tailor-made man.
That's
The
on him.
computerized man of the 21st century.
Actually, even though it was actually funny, I always kind of felt that way about Akeem, too. I enjoyed the Akeem gimmick, but you could never take the one-man gang seriously again after that one.
No. There's only so much you can do. Was Tugboat supposed to be an actual boat?
Yeah, that
A
annoyed me.
Shockmaster. There you go.
Well, that was one of those things. Like, remember you mentioned with Snitsky or whatever, they stopped using his first name. It was like Tugboat Thomas or something.
Yeah.
For like a week. And then they just dropped that off, and then he was just a boat.
Yeah.
And then after that, he was literally a natural disaster.
Caesar
Shockmaster is one of those things, we have to be glad that he fell through like that. I mean, that was the only breakthrough that guy was going to get.
Exactly.
Through that wall because...
Yeah.
But the gimmick was never going to work.
Yeah.
It was terrible anyway. At least we got that out of it. At least we got to laugh.
The best part of the Shockmaster debut was the part where you could just hear distinctly in the background British Bulldog being like, "He fell on his ass. He fell flat on his fucking ass." Which I watched live, and it just blew my mind.
Yeah,
we've
covered the Shockmaster a lot. Pat actually witnessed it live. Like, he's one of the few people. Like,
Were you there in the audience? You mean?
It did happen in Jacksonville, but I missed it. But I did watch it live on TBS because Clash of the Champions was live, so you could hear everybody just cracking up, including Ole Anderson, who has the Black Scorpion voice box where he can just be like, "I'm the Shockmaster."
Yeah, they
Come get me.
They say that only 1,000 people bought the Velvet Underground's record, but they all started bands. Probably about that many saw the Shockmaster, but every one of them became a stand-up comedian.
1,001, because I saw it too.
They saw Foley fall off the cage.
That's right. Yeah.
Or like with comedies like that, like after the Chappelle got heckled in Connecticut. So many people were like, "I was there." Like, why would you claim that?
Yeah.
It just makes you look terrible.
Well, that was the Foley falling off the cage thing. Everybody says they saw Foley fall off the cage.
He says that all the time. He's like, "If I count the amount of people that told me they were there."
I saw it on pay-per-view when we were growing up, because we would go over to a friend's house because his mom would be like, "All right, tell your mom to send me $5 and come over and bring me $5 and I'll buy the pay-per-view so all you kids can watch it." Because we were in exiting junior high going into high school, and it was just like, what, we get to watch something that's like $60? All right. And everybody says they saw Foley off the cage, but nobody will admit to seeing Dude Love wrestle ever. Yeah. It's so funny.
The craziest bump in that match was actually when Terry Funk kicked off his LA gears after taking the choke slam. He takes the choke slam, goes into fake convulsions, and kicks off his LA gears.
It's the funniest thing.
Well, I needed those LA gears. They were important to me.
Were they the lineup ones?
I have to say, has anybody ever heard Terra Funk's album? The one he recorded in Japan?
No.
It's excellent.
Yeah, that's me. Just as mean and tough as he can be. Listen up for the best part. I'm really sweet with a warm, kind heart. But when I'm doing it in the rain, I'm a fighting machine.
Terra Funk album it's got Japanese disco on it.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Have you ever heard of Hulkster in Heaven?
Yeah,
The Hulkster. Now there'll be an empty seat when I wrestle in Wembley. I used to tear my shirt, but now you've torn my heart.
Why are you singing it like Kermit the Frog?
because that's how he sings it.
Oh my, that's up
Why
there.
were there so many trials about steroids?
There should be three albums, or there should be three things in a safe that you should just put in a time capsule and just be like, "Hey, you like dumb shit that everybody ceases to remember." It's that the Macho Man record's going to be up there in 15 years. That WrestleMania record, I got to fucking put in that collection now.
The Hacksaw Jim Duggan song is really good.
The Dee Ramone hip hop album goes in there, and then the Star Wars Holiday Special goes right next to all those things.
Yep.
Just shit that everybody's tried to bury, but you're like, no.
You remember the Randy Savage, My Perfect Friend?
Yes,
Yes.
Kurt Hennig. Yeah.
He won't do that one live, he said, because I don't want any haters. This is a serious song for me.
But on the Wrestling Boot Band album, the Hulk Hogan one, there's a song on there called Beach Patrol that's pretty bad.
They made a video for Beach Patrol.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
He shares some lyrics with one of the songs on the Terra Funk album.
No way.
Yeah, because Jimmy Hart, that cruising down the street, or it's the beach in this case, looking for some action, my radio blaring on a rock and roll. That's a stock Jimmy Hart line that he uses in a bunch of his songs. 'Cause a lot of the songs on the Terra Funk album are actually written by Jimmy Hart.
Where is the Bret Hart record? Just the Bret Hart record where it's just all sad recovers of Poison songs, but they all have wrestling lyrics thrown in.
There was a stage. I love the stage of Bret Hart where he looked like Danzig. That was my favorite Bret Hart.
The disenchanted Bret Hart, after the HBK incident.
Martha, tell Vince not to use the rights. Tell him that he can't see my brother's fights. Martha!
Someone needs to get Bret Hart on the phone. We wrote some songs for him.
Well, I would like to get on the phone, but not much gets me out of bed anymore. I'm just a little too sad for it.
Heartbroken, if you
Bret
will.
Bret Hart was supposed to, when he came in, have a cowboy gimmick. Like, there was a Western character in the old Westerns called Bret Hart, and Vince McMahon took it literally and was like, "Hey, pal, you're going to be a cowboy." That would
There are cattlemen in Calgary.
Yeah,
too.
there are. But I just would have. It's like this sort of alternate, like, history sort of thing, like those alternate history
Just him
series.
saying Western euphemisms and that. So, how do you feel about that, partner? Hey? I'd watch my father wrestle, and then I'd watch my uncle wrestle, and then my father would beat me up, and I'd call that character building, and, it was a good childhood. I'm alone.
And then I would just go walk the range for a little while, eh?
I guess, they called it back then, parenting. I guess now it's molestation, but,
Just hearing Bret Hart say the phrase "get along, little dogies" would be that's like that's something I have to hear.
Bret Hart. It's like that's one of the saddest moments in wrestling.
All of Beyond the Mat
was when he,
I'm sorry, Wrestling with Shadows rather.
Mm-hmm. When he came back to wrestle Vince at, I want to say, WrestleMania 26.
Oh God,
that was the easiest match to book. And they did everything wrong. It should have been 30 seconds. It just needed to be punch, sharpshooter, end of story.
Yeah.
It was the whole thing where like all the hearts were out there and Vince had bought them and then they turned on him, but none of them were good actors, so they couldn't convey emotion.
The only way they could have overbooked it more is if Vince brought in Goldberg on his side. And then Goldberg did the double cross, and then
the plate
did the double cross and kicked Vince in the head and gave him a stroke.
Well, or if Goldberg just went out and said anything, because Goldberg could not sell me on his real name.
I don't know. You ever seen Santa's Sleigh?
No.
It's a Christmas horror movie with Goldberg as the evil Santa. It's pretty good.
What? Did you get this sent to you? Good night.
No,
sounds like something that somebody made for
Jews
you.
already killed Jesus. Now they're killing Santa Claus. I'm Jewish. It's okay.
Does Goldberg sharpshooter the sleigh at some point?
No, he doesn't. He kills people. But not with the sharpshooter.
He doesn't use the sharpshooter.
He does the spear and the jackhammer.
Oh yeah, the spear. That's right. Yeah, he doesn't do the spear.
The only
he doesn't
time
wrestle.
Goldberg could put you in a submission hold was when he was cutting a promo.
Yeah, there's no wrestling in it. It's got Fran Drescher in one scene. It's got the guy from I Spy.
Robert Culp.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the new one.
I was like,
Eddie
Owen
Murphy.
Wilson?
Owen Wilson's not.
Yeah, I had to ask.
He took a jackhammer wrong, and that's why his nose looks like that.
It was when they were shooting a Wes Anderson short. That one with Bill Goldberg, Owen Wilson.
Hey, a bottle rocket is something that is exciting at first and burns out in a minute, and so is Bill Goldberg.
Exactly.
So, right. There you go.
There was a match in Japan between Hayabusa, which was a big gimmick that was over there.
Oh yeah,
and
also
it was
what you say when you haven't seen your friend Abusa in a while.
and the thing was that there was a fake Hayabusa and then there was the real Hayabusa, and they had a match called the Anal Explosion match, where the winner was the guy that managed to put a firecracker in the other guy's butt and light it. I watched the match. There wasn't any false finishes where the guy put the firecracker in the butt but didn't manage to light it, or it was a dud or something like that. That was the whole match. It was just a 12-minute match of just like Japanese garbage wrestling, and then the guy basically has the guy down and puts a firecracker in his butt and lights it.
And then no one says a word.
And nobody says a word. I don't know
away.
Japanese, but the announcers were just completely confused as the entire thing based on their inflections.
It had nothing to do with Vince Russo.
I think retirement matches, by and large, specifically Triple H's retirement match at
God.
last year's WrestleMania, where he tried to look sympathetic.
Yeah,
It was really sad. I mean, sometimes those work, but the dudes often always come back. It's just a promise that you can't make.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Ric Flair had probably one of the best and most emotional retirement matches at 24.
And it was on TNA like 3 days later.
Yeah.
Well, let's not forget, Terry Funk had that tear-filled retirement in 1983 in
He
Japan.
said nothing but
he retired
retirement
forever.
He's had more retirement matches than matches.
The one I was going to mention is WCW Uncensored 1995 King of the Road match. It's Blacktop Bully versus Dustin Rhodes, soon to be Gold Dust. And the pay-per-view is in Tupelo, Mississippi, which why?
Hardcore wrestling was born there, you know. The Tupelo concession stand match. 1977, Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee versus the guy who later became the Honky Tonk Man and the guy who later became Moondog Spot.
I imagine you being there. And
I was
looking
down
like
there.
that.
He was the vendor.
I was down there recently.
Mr. Goodnight just reffed that match.
I can't imagine you age.
No, I don't age. I'm ageless, you understand?
But they shoot the thing.
I feel like it's like if they took the Ninja Turtles ooze and poured it on the splotch on Dusty's belly and it became a person.
It's like, look, Athena was born from when Zeus ate a spider and it popped out of her head. Athena, how do you know where a good night comes from? From the splotch, daddy. Parts unknown. Now you know what it is.
They have the King of the Road match. The King of the Road match takes place in the back of an 18-wheeler, which has been converted into a cage, and it's moving down the street. And
they're trying not to fall the entire
They're trying not to fall. It's hard. I mean, I don't know if you've ever ridden in the back of a pickup truck and tried to stand up. It's very difficult. So imagine having a wrestling match in the back of a gigantic pickup truck. So not only that, they're shooting it from the road, from the air, and they're trying to cut it so it looks like it's one thing. But the time of day keeps changing. If you watch it all of a sudden it's sunset and then it's high noon again. And so they very clearly just chop this horrible thing. It's one of the worst matches I've ever seen.
Playing bad dudes that a fight on the back of a truck would be a lot better than that.
They never had that fight on the elevator where a bunch of people just jumped in.
You talk about you remember the Junkyard Invitational they did in WCW?
Oh yeah.
It was like this post-apocalyptic junkyard and people were all getting injured because they were falling on old busted cars and
How
shit.
many luchadors collected disability after that match? It
that
was
was crazy.
No, they were illegal.
They have
11-minute long
and they're
match.
putting people in a car crusher and shit. And it's like, if this thing goes up, that's murder.
Yeah, and it's
wasn't Regal in that?
Regal was in that.
Yeah.
The king of scientific wrestling, the high priest of everybody that's a legitimate Daniel Bryan, CM Punk, and he was wrestling in a Junkyard Invitational match.
He's a real man's man.
Who needed money's money.
The King of the Road match ends with Dustin Rhodes and the Blacktop Bully both bleeding, which is a no-no in WCW at the time, and they're both summarily fired right after the match. So that was the King of the Road match. It's worth the watch. It's on YouTube.
Which led to Dustin Rhodes becoming
Goldust.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And Barry Darsow becoming Hole-in-One Barry Darsow, the golfer gimmick, which was very good.
What's it going to be like?
He was
Stuart
the Blacktop
Payne?
Billy.
Yeah.
oh man.
He was Smash from Demolition.
And
Crusher
Repo Man.
Khrushchev.
Repo Man was fun.
Repo Man was fun. Although I have to say that probably one of the poorest excuses for starting a feud was, remember, it was him versus the British Bulldog?
Yeah.
And he was pissed because he said dogs bark when he's trying to repossess cars at night.
But he was great. He looked like the Hamburglar. He did. And he'd always whisper, "Hey, come over here." I love the Repo Man.
The one that I always think of is it's my favorite setup to a gimmick match, but it's also one of the worst ones. It's just because of the people
Judy
involved.
Bagwell on a pole.
No, it was 80s. It was when the Bushwhackers faced off against the original Legion of Doom, and it was they had promoted it for a fucking year. It was 89, I think. I have no
Was this
idea.
when they were the Sheep Herders?
Yes.
Oh,
It
so this was in the
before that.
NWA.
Yes,
And
this
it was the
NWA
Road
wrestling.
Warriors
It wasn't
and they were
even
the Sheep
WWF,
Herders. Yeah.
but it was when.
Well, they were badass then. They used to
Yeah.
go in Puerto Rico and fight all these hardcore matches.
And they would fight hardcore
blood
all
everywhere.
the time. That's how they got originally signed in. Because I watched it on VHS because my uncle, who smoked entirely too much pot, used to. My parents were like, "No, he's fine. You go stay with him." He had so much wrestling on VHS that I would just pop shit in. I was watching that was the weirdest match because it was like they both end bleeding and it's less than 5 minutes. And it's like
the same thing
what the
happened to
fuck?
Bruiser Brody. So
That's true. Where it's like, no, we're just gonna hit you in the head a bunch
That
of
was the
times,
Puerto
and then the
Rican-
match is gonna end.
Puerto Rican
Rico, yeah.
shower style death match. Rhoda versus Invader #1.
And Tony Atlas missed his cue for the run-in.
such a Papa Shango move.
But
Saba Simba movie.
the worst
That's a
gimmick match
shitty
of all
gimmick.
time
That
is,
was the shittiest
is Jerry the King like suffering a heart attack in the middle of the ring and nobody's saying a fucking word.
God.
In Memphis, they would have got an entire season, entire year's fucking TV off of that shit.
off the real heart attack.
Yeah.
And like that's so funny
shit, they
because
would've done it.
It's that
They would have
point.
said somebody put a spell
Well,
on
in
him or
world
something.
class, they got a year out of a fake heart attack.
It was that point in wrestling where it's like for the rest of the match it was silent. There was no
The rest of
announcing.
the rest of the Raw.
The rest of the Raw,
Yeah.
nobody talked except for every 10 minutes. They would come back in to be like, we're not announcing the rest of this because Jerry the King Lawler had a heart attack. And then it's just silence.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now it's the Divas. You can touch, but you can't touch. I saw Jerry Lawler. I was at New York Comic Con, and I was doing a show in Times Square, and I went into Church's Chicken to get something to eat, and he was in there. So
This is post heart attack.
oh, it's going to happen again.
Well, actually, he's in the hospital again right now, isn't he?
Church chicken heart attack.
I know, there was the one gimmick match that I completely forgot about was the bungee cord match. Yeah.
Global Wrestling.
Which they ran it like every time I watched Global Wrestling Federation.
Sportatorium.
Yeah, they would show this particular thing where it was just a long camera shot of two guys wrestling on top of a very high tower, and they had bungee cords attached to them, and they were just having a scalpel match trying to throw each other off. And the entire time, Manny Fernandez is doing the announcing, and he's coked out of his mind. He's just like, "This is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Throw him off. Maybe he'll die."
I love when Eddie and Ray fought for Ray's son's custody on a pole. It was a ladder match. Yeah, they had to climb to get his custody.
They should have just put the kid at the top. Whoever touches this son first wins full custody.
Like put him in a little bird cage. At the...
Oh, man.
Good night. Do you have a favorite gimmick match?
The empty arena match. Jerry Lawler, Terry Funk, Mid-South Coliseum. You never seen that thing?
I have not. No.
Oh, my eye! Oh my God, I can't see. Lawler, you're yellow. It was an empty arena. It was Jerry Lawler and Terry Funk. It was like 1981, and it ends with Jerry Lawler stabbing Terry Funk in the eye with a piece of wood. Although they don't show it, so they claim that the wood just slipped. But if we're going to go to like bad gimmick matches, I mean, Memphis had tons of them. They had like Lose Eats dog food matches and shit like this.
I'm not taking this 3 count. I can't take any more
Well, I tell you,
kibbles and
man,
bits.
I got high and eating that stuff, and some of it ain't too bad. The duck and potato, in particular.
Be so you to no-sell dog food.
Oh, I know. I was like, shit, give me another can of this shit. Bring me some Alpo.
He's 0-16, but everyone keeps showing up.
Exactly. Throwing the match.
I don't give a kibble and shit about who loses. Yeah.
Mr. Goodnight changed his name to Kibbles and Shits.
Incidentally, Junkyard Dog, you would think. You would think he would add a lot of dog food.
Well, or at least
Well,
joined up in more of
Bulldog
those
as well.
matches.
He's another one.
Yeah.
You put guys like that in the Lose Eats dog food match, they're going to throw it.
Well, I mean, British Bulldog did lose the dog poop match, so
Well, he lost a match with life.
yeah, he did. But they had the match where like the loser was the one
the
that got
Ultimate
thrown
Warrior's
into a
comeback.
pile of dog poop.
Yeah.
When did Vince McMahon fight God?
I was going to say that
hard.
was where I was headed back to. Was Vince McMahon versus God was amazing.
Well, it was a tag team match.
What, did
It was
God
Vince
show
and
up?
Shane.
That's right. Vince and Shane
Shawn
versus Shawn
Michaels
Michaels and God.
Did God show up? Did he show up, or was he
Yeah, to take
omnipresent?
test.
Well, if he's omnipresent, he could theoretically be counted out at the same time.
Yeah, because 20 count.
But he's also in the ring, but everywhere else.
He's also out of the ring though. For 10 seconds.
He knows what's going to happen.
There's a
man,
rule
anyway.
in the thing about omnipresent beings now fighting. It's like, you can't do a 20 count because they're everywhere.
When you're God, everything is predetermined. You know,
He's
he's a terrible booker. He would not even put his son over.
Falls
He
count
fed them the
everywhere.
lions.
But that was the best retirement match, was Jesus versus the crucifix.
Mike, where can people find you on the internet?
You could find me at the Mike Lawrence and my website, MikeLawrenceComedy.com, and my album Sadamantium on iTunes.
And what about you, Justin?
I am on Twitter and Instagram as Just Lentz, and I'm on Facebook, but I have a David Hasselhoff picture on there now, so yeah.
Should be easy to find.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Goods from the Woods. Have a good one, everybody.
This one goes out to my real close friend and buddy, Kurt Hennig, a.k.a. Mr. Perfect. Just want to let you know that you're missed, but you'll never be forgotten. You've always been an incredible friend. We just want you to know that we got your back, party system style, for the Macho Man, Randy Savage. You were my perfect friend, right there until the end. You were my perfect friend until we meet again. Can't explain this pain, never felt like this. Mr. Perfect, don't you know that you'll be true?
The Goods from the Woods is mixed and edited by me, Rivers Langley, and distributed by Westcast Network. Our theme song is composed by DJ Smiles. You can find him online at djsmiles.net.